Hi, and welcome back to another AnyRPG Development Livestream. In these videos, I livestream the development of the AnyRPG Engine, a free and open source role-playing game engine designed in Unity and written in C#. If you don't already have a copy of AnyRPG, you can pick one up from anyrpg.org/downloads in both Unity package and source code format. You can also find Lost Soul, the free game that I work on in these episodes, for download at the same page. In this episode, we will be adding some very cool armor that was generously donated to the project by Arteria3D, to the Lost Soul game that is. And this is the Knight G for Unity UMA 2.5 and above. And if you haven't heard of Arteria3D, you can find very high quality and varied selection of UMA armors over at that site. And they've also got a YouTube channel, Arteria3D.com. I'll have links for all these things in the description. So what we'll be doing in this episode is we will be adding this armor and making a new armor set for it, and then demonstrating how to either buy that armor from a vendor or get it as a drop from a dungeon. So let's go ahead and get started. The UMA model that's wearing this particular gear set is this OBM male_8 right here. So what we'll need to do is create pieces of armor and then assign these wardrobe recipes to those pieces of armor. And we'll be taking advantage of the feature that we added in the last episode of having multiple UMA pieces per armor set, because you can see that we've got, for example, elbow armor, and since we don't have an elbow slot, that's going to have to basically go with the chest, and same with the knee, that'll pretty much have to go with the pants. So let's go ahead and start creating the armor set. Now the easiest thing way to create an armor set with any RPG is just to base it off of some existing armor set. So we've got the Earth Dwellers plate gear, which is a full set of armor. So what we want first is the armor items themselves. So if you just search Earth Dwellers plate armor, you'll find the whole set here. And I'm just going to hit Control D to duplicate these pieces. And this new armor set is going to be called the Ancient Plate Armor. And I'm just going to leave everything exactly the way that it is. These are already blue quality items, which will dynamically scale to whatever level your character is at. So they're just fine. And then, of course, we'll be adding the UMA recipe profile for those as well. So under the Earth Dwellers plate armor here, I'm just going to change the name to the Ancient Plate Armor on all of the different copies that I made here. Okay, good. So now that I've renamed all these, we'll just want to go up to the top here and in their descriptions, change that to Ancient for all of them. Okay, good. And right here where it says from an underground mine, I'm just going to change that description as well. So this will be plate pauldrons from an ancient temple. And why don't we just change this, make it just a nice generic description so I can just easily copy that to all of them. So description will just set plate armor from an ancient temple. Okay, good. And then the next thing that we'll want to do is actually make the UMA recipe profiles. So if we search again for Earth Dwellers plate armor, we'll find some UMA recipe profiles. So the one we're looking for specifically is UMA recipe profile type here. And then in this case, we'll hit Control D to duplicate those. We'll have to add a couple extra slots because previously, until now, we were using free UMA armor, which never had all 8 slots worth of visual eye candy. And since we're using a beautiful paid set here, then it'll have all the slots. So once again, we're just going to change the name on these to Ancient. Alright, so we have the armor, the boots, the gloves, the helm, and the legs, but we need the pauldrons and the belt. So let's make pauldrons. And belt. And actually, you know what? We don't actually need bracers because there actually isn't a visual for the bracers in this one. So we've got 7 slots anyway. So then we'll want to make sure that up here the titles match. So here we'll want to have Ancient for the plate belt. And we've got Earth Dwellers plate boots needs to be Ancient plate boots. Earth Dwellers plate gloves needs to be Ancient plate gloves. Earth Dwellers plate helm should be Ancient plate helm. Earth Dwellers plate legs should be Ancient plate legs, and Earth Dwellers plate legs here is actually Ancient plate pauldrons. Okay. So let's see, we got armor, belt, boots, gloves, helm, legs, and pauldrons. Perfect. So now what we want to do is, since we're no longer using the old UMA recipe, we're using the list now. We're just going to blank out all these old recipes. And now we want to add in the proper recipes for these. So to do that, we want to go back and find this OBM Mail 8. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit, open this up so I can see all the descriptions here. I'm going to lock the inspector, and over in this tab, I'm going to add a new inspector. Then I'm going to search for those resource profiles again. So we'll look for our Ancient plate armor UMA recipe profile. And now we want to pull in, or basically we want to find what's going to be the slots we'll use for that. So we are using OB underscore chest armor D recipe. And let's see if we need anything else. I think we also need OB tabard A chainmail as well. So we'll add a second one and grab the OB tabard A chainmail, and This is chainmail with tunic B. Okay. I think that's it for the armor. Oh, you know what? We need the elbow armor too. So we want to add a third UMA item, and we want to add the OB underscore elbow armor. And this is the elbow armor A recipe. Okay, I think that's good. We actually don't have a belt, and I'm going to use the chest armor thigh plates for the belt, basically, to give us a belt slot. So under the belt, we want OB chest armor D thigh plates. So OB underscore chest armor D thigh plates. All right, for the boots, we want boots A recipe. So OB boots A recipe. For the gloves, we want OB gauntlets A recipe. And then for the helm, we want OB helmet H recipe. And I believe we also want hood A top and bottom. And I think that's it. Yeah, I think so. And then for the legs, we will want a couple of things. We will want the trousers A chainmail. Oh, they're just called trousers A chainmail. There's no OB in front. And then we will also want the knee armor. So OB knee armor A recipe. And then I think we also want OB thigh armor A recipe. And that looks good. And finally, for the pauldrons, we will want the OB shoulder armor C recipe. And is it C with elements or just C? OB shoulder armor C recipe. Okay. All right, and that is our entire set, basically. So now that we've created these, we have to make sure that the armor pieces that we buy or that drop are linked to these UMA recipe profiles. So we'll unlock the inspector now. Close this tab because we don't need it anymore. We want the armor version of this, so we're going to go back here and just make sure everywhere where the UMA recipe says Earth Dwellers, we'll change that to Ancient. Actually, that's right, there's no armor for the bracers. But there is for the belt. And we actually called it girdle, so I'm just going to check and make sure that it's actually called girdle. Okay. So the UMA recipe, we should actually change that to ancient plate girdle so that they match. Okay, so ancient plate pauldrons calls ancient plate pauldrons, ancient plate legs calls legs, helm calls helm, gloves calls gloves, girdle calls girdle, bracers calls nothing, boots calls boots, armor calls armor. Perfect. And then we also have this equipment set, ancient plate, and I want to do pretty much the same thing I did with the ancient cloth here, and I want to add 2 traits at 2 and 5, quick reflexes and speed of the wolf. So let's set trait names. Then, and with 2 pieces of armor, you'll get quick reflexes, and with 5 pieces of armor, you'll get speed of the wolf. Then we need to actually set the equipment names for them. So it's going to be, let's just lock the inspector here. And then that way we can just copy these names right out of here. So ancient plate armor, ancient plate armor, ancient plate boots, ancient plate bracers, ancient plate girdle, ancient plate gloves, ancient plate helm, ancient plate legs, and ancient plate pauldrons. Okay, great. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that all of those pieces of armor, let's unlock the inspector, and make sure that they all belong to that set. So somewhere we have this armor equipment set name down here, and we'll just add, ancient plate to all of them, and then now these guys will be part of an armor set and you'll get bonuses for equipping them. So the next thing that we need to do, since we have the armor and the armor is attached to the UMA profiles and the armor set is made, is we want to actually have a way to get these types of things. So there is a vendor list called plate armor. It's a vendor collection here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add our new set to it. So there's 9 pieces, so we want to set the size here to 29. And icy plate helm was the last one, so this is going to be the ancient plate helm. Ancient plate, you know what, let's just lock the inspector again. And just start at the top again. Ancient plate armor. Ancient plate boots. Ancient plate bracers. Ancient plate girdle. Ancient plate gloves. ancient plate helm, ancient plate legs, and ancient plate pauldrons. And the spaces don't matter because spaces are removed when we're actually searching for these items anyway. So now we've got this attached to the vendor collection, and if we take a look at our armor vendor, we have vendor, plate vendor unit. Let's unlock the inspector, and our plate vendor right here, this guy, has a vendor interactable, or basically a vendor script on him, and he has the vendor collection plate armor, which will allow him to sell all those items that we just added. The next thing that we want to do is we want to add a way for our characters to get these items from mobs when they drop. So to do that, we'll want to make a loot table. And a loot table is a common loot table that will allow us to basically have the same loot drop for every mob. So there's a crystal mine loot table in the game, and that's probably about the closest thing here. So we're just going to duplicate that, and we are going to call this loot table Temple of Ancient Energy, because that's the name of the dungeon that's going to share this common loot table here. We're just going to set the size down to 0 temporarily, bring it back up to 1. We're going to lock the inspector again, and we're going to search for the word ancient plate once more, and then just copy and paste these names again. So the item name is ancient plate armor, and I'm just going to be really cheap here. I'm going to give it a 100% drop chance, so that means that as soon as I kill a mob, I'll get this automatically pretty much. And now let's set the size of this to 8. So because each of these items have a 100% drop chance, actually, let's go back to 1. This is min drops 1, max drops 1 as well. And now we'll switch that back to 8. Okay, so we want to add the ancient plate boots to the drop table, and I will get every single one of these items on a single kill because they all have a 100% drop chance. So we'll just copy all the names in here. Okay, so now all we need to do is we need to give this loot table to some mob or another, and this loot table is called the Temple of Ancient Energy. So the mobs that are in the dungeon are a spider and a mummy. Let's go find those units. These will be in chapter 2. So I've named them Ancient Mummy and Ancient Spider. We're just going to highlight both of them, and they both have a lootable character component on them. We will give them a shared loot table, and this is the Temple of Ancient Energy loot table. So now either of these units, when we kill them, will give us every item on that loot table. So I believe the only thing left to do is actually jump into the game and test that this stuff works. I've got an armor who can wear plate, or I mean a warrior who can wear plate, sitting in the dungeon, and I've got a warrior who can wear plate somewhere up in the Sun Temple. Let's see if I can find him. There we go. So let's load the guy up in the Sun Temple first. Oh, you know what? Actually, I think we're okay. I think we already added all the UMA items to the global library. And essentially, let me just, I think I skipped that step because I did it earlier. But what we would do normally here is we would go to Window. No, we would go to UMA and we would go to Global Library window right here. And we would basically drag this OBM folder into this spot, and then it will index everything for you. If you don't do that, then your armor will be invisible and none of it will show up. So we'll go over to our plate vendor here, and we should have enough space to buy this stuff. And I don't know if we have enough money. Yeah, I think we do. So over here, oh no, we don't have enough money. So let's just go adjust. You know what? I think we can get a bunch of money if we sell this stuff back. Yeah, let's make some money. Let's just clear out our bags here. So basically just sell all my existing armor that I'm not wearing right now, including that beautiful icy set. Alright, good. I've got enough money now. I've got 8 gold. I can buy all this stuff. So we'll buy the ancient plate armor, ancient plate boots, ancient plate bracers, ancient plate girdle, gloves, helm, legs, and pauldrons. And now I'm completely broke, but I've got a beautiful set of armor, hopefully. So let's go test this out. We'll just park our character out in the sun here where we can see him. And I'm going to move this out of that bag, actually. Let's swap that one up there. And then I think this is all my new ancient gear right here. Perfect. Let's just save the game before we start putting this stuff on. You never know. And start with, oh, there it is. Oh, there's the helm. Oh, that looks good. Okay. We got the legs. I don't think the gloves worked. We got the thigh plates here for the girdle, so that one worked. He's got these cool looking pauldrons. The armor and the tabard appear to have worked. The boots look okay. And of course the bracers didn't have anything on them. Okay, so let's see, am I wearing the entire set right now? I do. I have all 8 pieces equipped, so that's good. Okay. So let's just go take a look at what this armor set looks like, because I think I know what's happening here. Basically, we didn't get the gloves, we didn't get the elbows, and we didn't get like this chainmail thing here. We also didn't get the plate pauldrons, I think, or the knee pads. So let's see. Basically, I think the multi-slot thing isn't necessarily working. Now that's an interesting issue. Atlas resolution is too small. Textures will be reduced. Does that mean that they're not going to show textures, or does that mean that the quality will be reduced? interesting message. So let's just save the game and then jump out. First thing I want to check is the gloves. The gloves should have gone on our character no matter what. So let's look at the ancient plate gloves. The equipment slot type is gloves. The UMA recipe profile is ancient plate gloves, which points to the OB gauntlets A recipe. Let's take a look at that. It's just going to take a second to create an UMA context. Apparently that error or warning about Atlas resolution is too small won't matter. Okay, so here's the recipe, and the wardrobe slot, I see. The wardrobe slot is gauntlets, which is apparently, it says human male OBM only, which is kind of interesting because it says it's compatible with human male DCS, and human male high poly. So it's interesting because human male OBM, I think that is an UMA model available here. I'm not sure. Let's just check. Interesting that Google knows absolutely nothing about a human male OBM. Let's try just swapping this slot to hands. I just want to see what happens there. And it's a little strange that when we attempted to unequip the old item, it didn't actually do that. So that's because this old item here is actually supposed to say my UMA recipes does not equal null. I forgot to add the S to it, so that's why the old ones didn't unequip properly. Let's jump back into the game and see just if we can get those old ones to unequip properly. And I'm looking for my warrior in the Sun Temple. Okay, so first I actually want to put the Initiate's plate gloves back on, and then remove them. Okay, there we go. So now I've got bare hands, and now I want to put the ancient plate gloves on. Perfect. Okay, good. So the ancient plate gloves are working here. They work on the hand slot here, so I don't need them on the gauntlet slot, so that's good. Definitely good. Let's take these things off again. Okay, yeah, I see. They go right up there. Okay, great. So now the only thing that we have to deal with, basically, you know what? Let's just swap everything out again, because I think I may not have gotten all my slots swapped properly, which means I still may have been wearing all the other armor underneath it because of that issue with that missing S in the code. Okay, good. So now we've got all the armor on, kind of. We still want to show the plate pants. We still want to show the knee pads. We still want to show the elbows. I'm getting a lot of these UMA warnings here. All right, and I guess it's going to take a sec while we load an UMA context or whatever it's doing so that we can actually see this recipe here. All right, so what we want to do is, let's go look at our ancient plate armor, because this has the chest armor, the tabard chainmail, and the elbow armor. So I want to lock this inspector. I'm going to add another inspector over here. And let's just take a look at these things. So our chest armor here goes in the wardrobe slot chest, okay? Our tabard with chainmail goes in the wardrobe slot full outfit. The elbow armor goes in an elbow armor human male OBM only. So I don't know what'll happen if we put it in the arm slot. But it's worth a shot. Because I think the skin mesh renderer on it doesn't care what UMA slot we've got the thing in. Although I'm not sure, like if we tell UMA to try to put 2 items in the same wardrobe slot, if that will work. I guess we'll find out. So let's just save that, and you know what? We don't actually have anything in our arms slot. I just realized that. So this will actually probably work fine. So let's load them up here. And we'll have to take the armor off and put it back on. So, no, oops, that's the pauldrons. Where's my chest here? Okay, I want to take the ancient plate armor chest off. Okay, good. So I've still got the shoulders and everything on. And now I want to re-equip it. Oh yeah, there they are. Sweet, cool. It's because it works awesome because the skin mesh renderer basically, it doesn't care what UMA slot you put it in. The skin mesh renderer is basically attached to those bones. I could probably put it in the feet slot and it really wouldn't care. Okay, that's good. So next up, basically the neck is missing, and we also have like pants sort of missing as well. So let's just save this. We'll exit the game and we'll see if we can go fix the neck issue. And I think we have to wait a sec for our UMA. Context to get created. All right, good. And so now we want to go see the ancient plate. Let's see, the boots had just a single item, so that wasn't an issue. Let's lock and unlock the inspector, and actually we'll keep that unlocked. So the bracers don't have anything, so that's fine. The girdle, let's just take a look at what UMA slot the girdle was in. Huh, interesting. So the girdle is actually an alternate head, which actually totally proves my point about it really doesn't care what wardrobe slot it's in, basically. I think it's just we can potentially only have one item per wardrobe slot. So let's go find the ancient plate set again. So the gloves, very likely in the hands slot. Yep, and now for the helm, we have the helmet H recipe, which has wardrobe slot helmet, and we have the hood top and bottom, which is in a hood slot. So let's see what other kind of slots we have. We have alternate head, although alternate head is already in use for the girdle. So the waist slot isn't in use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the hood to alternate head, and then I'm going to move the girdle to waist. All right, and now I think that leaves us with only the legs not working. So we don't have the knee armor and we don't have the thigh armor. So the trousers A chainmail is taking up the leg slot. The knee armor is taking up a knee armor slot. And the thigh armor is taking up a thigh armor slot. So let's look at the knee armor and see if there's any slots we could put that on. We don't have alternate hands taken up right now. So I think we could probably use alternate hands. And I want to try and experiment. For the thigh armor, I want to see if Uma can have like 2 items per slot. I don't know if it can, but I want to take this thigh armor here and I want to put it in the legs slot. So let's save that. And try that out. Okay. So where's our character? His belt isn't showing right now. Okay, so there's the belt showing. Let's swap out the the Earth Dweller's plate helm. Ah, right, because the entire Earth Dweller set is actually, I think, missing. I haven't reconfigured it yet, so that makes sense. Okay, what happens now? Good. So he got his chainmail. So that all appears to be working. I believe the last thing that we want to try here is the legs. So let's just remove his boots here. And then we'll take his pants off. And actually, let's take off his armor and his belt as well. Just so we can see his legs a little better here. Okay. So we'll put the legs on. And yeah, okay. So basically, the knee pads went on and the legs went on, the thigh plates, but the chainmail did not. And that is because my suspicion, I think, was correct that UMA only allows you one item per slot. Let's look at the console here and see if we got a warning about that. Unable to find a slot or recipe for slot name knee armor. It's an interesting message. Let's drop out of the game here for a sec. Alright, so I want to look at this armor again. I think we're going to have to wait for it to create another UMA context here. There's one slot that we haven't tried out, and that is the full outfit slot. And I don't know if that slot will like intentionally overwrite all other slots. So we can see about putting one of the pieces of leg armor into that slot. So we'll just wait until this UMA context is done creating here, and we can look at stuff. Oh, you know what? It's done. Okay, perfect. So let's take a look at the ancient plate armor again, and actually we want the ancient plate legs. And let's grab the thigh armor recipe. Alright, no, now it's going to create an UMA context. Okay. So then hopefully we can put that in the full body slot. These error messages here though, since I set the slot already that these things are going in, I want to see if I can figure out what's going on with these error messages too, because they shouldn't be happening, I don't think. Okay, so if we look at this, it says wardrobe slot legs. And then this OB thigh armor A has OB thigh armor A slot associated with it. So that worked for us, like, because we were able to assign it to the wardrobe slot of the legs. I think to get rid of those warning messages completely, I'd have to add a slot asset for just like the standard UMA legs. I'm kind of interested about that. Let's go just look at the legs mail pack, because I want to see what their slot is using. So they're using the legs mail pack type A slot. Okay, I think I'm just going to ignore those for now. Let's try the full body trick with the knees anyway. So we'll go to the ancient plate legs, and we'll swap the thigh armor into the full outfit. I have no idea if this is going to cause it to try to hide everything else or not, or whether that's just a special slot sort of designed if you have like a single outfit. We'll find out in a second. Okay, so let's remove the leg armor and then put it back on. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Okay, very cool. So the Uma full outfit slot does not overwrite anything. So it's like just another slot you can use as sort of like a crutch. I ran out of space slot. So it looks like we've got our full set of Uma armor on. That was really close. We used up basically all the Uma slots. I didn't want to use up the hair or eyebrow or beard slots because that could really mess with your character's like options. Same with the face, like if you wanted a different Uma face or something. So that was cool. We're able to get by without needing to do that, and this guy looks absolutely awesome, pretty much exactly like he does right here. So now let's just go into the dungeon and test out and make sure that our character who's in the dungeon can get these items dropped from a mob. And this is kind of interesting. Let's I think we're waiting for Unity to create an UMA context here. Okay, so this one came from my stamina modifier. Let's just look at that line of code there. So that's actually this like entire line of code right here. So this happened basically as we logged out. So somehow this thing got called after, I think after the character had basically already been destroyed. I suspect that's what happened there. So I think essentially if our base character is null, we should also return just 0. Alright, so let's load up the game again and load up our warrior over in the Sun Temple. Or I mean the Temple of Ancient Energy. And this is the guy we want. Just give him a weapon here, like this nice rune sword. And then let him hack this thing down and loot him. And let's just fill up our bag slots so we know where all this stuff is coming into this new bag here. We're going to take the entire gear set. And there we go. We have ourselves a fully armored knight. Looking very much like a fully armored knight. And everything is working. Awesome. So that is UMA armor added from Arteria3D. That was a very generous donation, and I hope you enjoyed that. As always, if you did, then don't forget to thumbs up the video, subscribe to the AnyRPG YouTube channel, or just leave a note in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.